This is Jean. I have been in Lamu for the last, I think, 1 or 2 weeks. No, it's been a week and a half. And I got a question from one of you on Twitter about how I planned my trip to Lamu. And I have actually written down some few notes to sort of, give you an idea on how you can plan a trip to Lamu, a budget trip. That is, mine, I wouldn't exactly call it a budget trip, but I think it's like a middle trip, like just slightly above budget, because obviously I did pay for flights. Budget, I think it would be the one that you use the road, and everything else is budget from there. So the first cost that I had was the flight costs, which are the highest or the most expected costs, or the four main costs that you could expect if you're having a trip to Lamu. The first and main cost is your flight cost or your travel cost. The next cost is food. The next one is accommodation, and the other one is the cost of activities that you're going to do on the ground. So flight costs or travel costs can be either flight or road. For me, I chose to do flights because I heard that it's not safe for a solo traveler who is a lady to go on the road, because there is somewhere, I don't know where, there is a forest where you pass. I'm sure you've all seen that if you've been researching about Lamu. However, there are some ladies that I met with, and they used the road. They were actually staying at the hotel near mine, and they used road, and they said there was nothing much. It's only that they got so tired. They had booked with, I think, Silverstone or something, and then you know what happened with the airline, so they couldn't use a flight, so they decided to use road, and everything went well for them. So if you really you're on a tight budget, maybe you could try that, but also keep that in mind that it's not the safest option.
Okay, so there's it's not the express SGR. There's the normal SGR that's 1,000 bob. It's inter-county, so it stops everywhere. So it's like 8 hours. Imagine. Haya, it stops Mtito Ande, sijui wapi wapi Voi. So it's nice by day. Someone wants to stop on the way. So you fika Mombasa to Malindi is like 700 by. Kuna matatu hapo na buses at the stop ya SGR. Haya, so ukishafika Malindi, most times, like the earliest bus you can take from earliest SGR is, so that's 8 hours, and it's 3 hours from Mombasa to Malindi. But the last bus from Malindi to Lamu is like midday or 1 p.m. latest. So anything beyond that, you won't be lucky. So it's like you'll have to spend a night in Malindi, of which there's a hotel karibu tu na stage inaitwa Tana Guest House, because you need to catch the first bus out of Malindi so that you don't waste time on the road, and a shuttle is better and faster. So we used Al Wahim shuttle from Malindi. Al Wahim, oh no, so hapo Malindi there's a guest house called Tana Guest House. There's the one we slept ilikuwa inaitwaje, but iko hapo tu karibu, so it's not bad. It was like 1,500, 1,200 Kenya shillings peke, and it just has a bed, a TV, and a small table, but nothing more. Haya, so you wake up 5:30 the following day, 5:30 a.m. Then you take that shuttle. There's also Tawakal bus that goes. There's also another bus, I didn't get the name. So those three, like now from Malindi to Lamu, it's 1,100, and it's another 3 hours. So then when you get to Lamu, Mokoeni or something, Mokowe, then you take a ferry, not a ferry, speedboat, which there's one for 250, which is a bit slow, but you can also pay for 50, which is fast. So if you can bargain, yes, 300 is fair enough. The speedboat mpaka Lamu, and that's how we did it.
Flights, I used a budget company or a budget airline called Fly 540, and I booked this, I think, 3 or 4 months before November. So I booked them in, I think I booked in late July or early August, September, October, November. Yeah, I think I booked in actually August. So when I booked, the flights were I remember actually seeing 6,000 or something, but when I booked they were 7,000, which was times 2, which came to 14,000. But I remember I stayed for some time and they came to 15,000, which is return. For food, I was really looking to stay at an Airbnb, but then I thought that Airbnbs may require me like to cook. So I looked for a property that is in booking.com but still on Airbnb. I used booking.com. So this place that I'm staying at is called Shella White House, and the cost per day, let me actually look for the exact cost per day, was 2,281. Kindly note that this price may change, may vary depending on the time you're booking. So I booked on November. No, I actually booked, sorry, I think I booked in September, and this is the price that I saw on booking.com, and I realized booking.com had a cheaper rate than Airbnb. I had booked for 3 days here, and then I had booked for 6 days in another place called Jonathan, which is next to Shella White House. And the best thing is that I realized that the owner is the same person, so they gave me a very nice discount and told me if I want to continue living at my first property, I could continue living there. If I want to move to the second place, I can move there. So it was coincidental. In fact, when I was booking, I thought one was in Shella, the other one was in Lamu. So you'll know that Shella is a smaller town outside of Lamu, and Lamu is the main place. So I had thought that I'd spend a few days in Shella and a few days in Lamu, but it all ended up being in Shella. So I don't know how they had written it online and ended up being of the same person. Like, this is just serendipity, I would say, or coincidence. And they actually upgraded me from a single room to, I think, a double room. No, sorry, no, they upgraded me from a small single room to a big single room that was upstairs and better. So kindly note that the next price that you need is accommodation. One thing I've noticed, on low season in Lamu, you could get some really good accommodation all the way from even 2,000 shillings or $20 all the way to 10,000 a night. You know, it all depends with your budget. For me, I was really on a budget, and I'm not somebody who is really choosy on where you're staying. The only thing that I'm choosy in is cleanliness and of course accessibility and safety. Those are the main things that I look for. So I don't really especially when I'm traveling on a budget, I don't really need so much. And then the best thing is that since this is still an Airbnb, I did get the bed and breakfast option, but I can also cook. You know, sometimes when you book a hotel, you could not cook in there. So most of these properties, you could just definitely cook in there, and that was so good. There was that the accommodation, which I told you was 2,000 a night. So you can multiply that by the nights that you're planning to stay. If you're planning to stay for like 2 weeks, you could multiply that by 14. And I realized that sometimes if you meet with the host, they might upgrade you, especially if there's no one else staying in the villa. Like the villa I'm staying by myself, and the rooms are really nice, and they obviously upgraded me. There's a rooftop, there's a nice view of the ocean, and yeah. So for food in Shella, there's so many, like, all types of restaurants. So obviously there is the main high-end restaurant. Like just down here there is Peponi restaurant, which is very high-end. You know, like a plate would go for like 3,000 shillings, 1,500 shillings. And there are other restaurants where a plate would go for 700 shillings, 500 shillings. And then there are the vibanda type places where you can see people cooking outside, or just like we have in Nairobi, where even like a plate of pilau will go for 150. Occasionally I do buy there, but when I went to Lamu, I also bought my own food. So I did a little shopping. So I bought rice for days that I don't want to go outside. I bought fruits in the market and vegetables. There are times you just want to have a salad and you don't want a heavy meal like rice and stuff like that, but there are times you want to try the fish. So I have a balance between days I want to cook. And the best thing is that the property comes with bed and breakfast. So for breakfast, I don't really have to buy or worry about buying like eggs and stuff like that. However, my food for a day honestly does not pass 7. I would say my food for a day honestly does not pass 700. The first day I came, I went to that kibanda like place and I bought a plate of pilau for 200 shillings and tamarind juice for 200 shillings for lunch, and that was it. And the pilau was so much that I had it that I ate half and I ate the rest for dinner, and I had fruits and snacks from Nairobi, so I was sorted for that night. The second day we went to Lamu, had biryani and some fish. That day I think I was out there on my excursion and they made us fish on the boat for free, so that was sorted. I noticed when I have a heavy dinner, I don't want a heavy lunch, I do not want a heavy dinner. So for food you could wing it and you could easily spend like 1,000 shillings per day, if depending on how you plan yourself. 1,000 to 2,000 depending on how much you eat, because sometimes my lunch is split between lunch and dinner. I can't finish a whole plate of pilau. I really have a low appetite and I don't eat as much rice. Next is, in terms of food, you could always buy things that you can easily cook, like rice. Get a fridge. Like here there's a fridge in my place where I can store my fruits, my rice. When it comes to activities, it all depends with how your trip is set up. So what I wanted was a trip where I could sleep, relax, meditate, heal, and just, have you ever been going on 100 but I felt like a burnout was impending and I caught it in time? So I had to do a lot of healing things, like working out, running on the beach, relaxing. So I didn't want a lot of high level activities. I didn't want excursions every day where I wake up at 8 and the guide is there and we're coming back by 5. I didn't want that for my trip. I wanted that for, like, let's say a quarter of my trip. I have only gone for 2 main days where I'm going on excursions. The rest of the outings I've been walking on the beach. Like yesterday we actually walked for 3 hours on the beach. So we walked for 1 hour, played football with some people we found on the beach. It was so random, and then we walked back for 1 hour. So however, if you want a very full or activity packed vacation, then consider spending some money on activities, because here activities really don't come cheap. You will find something like a sunset dhow cruise would cost you 9,000 if you're by yourself. And I asked around and most people kept saying it's 9,000, it's 8,000 if you're by yourself. So however, if you're in a group, that money is divided by the people in the group. For example, we were 6 people and we were doing the sunset dhow cruise, and we paid I think 1,500 everybody, and that was such a steal. But if I was by myself, I would end up paying 9,000. So the more people there are, the merrier. If you're traveling alone, you have to hop on people's like excursions and talk to the guides, like, hey, do you have other people? Put me in the day where you have other people in this sort of activities. Other activities, like we also had a day where we visited the ruins, which is like Takwa ruins, and fishing and barbecue on the boat and swimming a whole day and snorkeling, all those water activities. That also cost us 10,000, and we were 3 of us, so we ended up paying 3,000 each. We got a discount. So one thing I've noticed, the less you are, the more you're going to pay for these activities. So you can easily, with all the calculations I've given you, you can easily find a way to find something for your budget. If let's say you're really on a budget, you could look for a guide who has a lot of people on board and hop into that, or you could do it by yourself depending on your budget. You could also increase the days that you're doing the trip, and that will make your budget go a bit higher. However, I believe that even if you do not have a lot of money, you can still make it to Lamu. Like it's all a matter of timing. I think you should really time when it is low season. I actually thought November was high season, but there are not a lot of people. Trust me, even on the beach, when you're walking in the morning, when you're walking in the evening, doing your runs, there aren't any people. So it's very strange that it's November, it's still not high season. Make sure you check when the high seasons are. I know, like for example, December is a high season. I hope you really enjoyed. I'm gonna link the details down below of restaurants that you can visit when you're in Lamu, places you can stay. Especially, I'm sure people really want to know, okay, where are these places and how do they look like. Also down below you can find the numbers of the guides who are taking us around. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope I see you soon in Lamu. And yeah.